In this lecture, we are going to understand how processes are created in x86. Please refer to this URL for information about the complete series of lectures on operating systems. So we've already seen that when x86 boots up, right, the first user process that is created is the init process. And this init process then forks the shell process. And this shell process later on forks other processes to run various user commands, right? So these are the other user processes that are forked. Okay, and so now in this lecture, we're going to understand how this init process and all subsequent processes are created, how the actual process creation happens. So note that after init, every other process that is created with the forked system call. Okay, so the user process that is created, any other user process that is created by the fork system call. And in all of this, whether you're creating the init process or any other process later on, there is this function allocproc, which is actually responsible for allocating a p-table entry for the new process and so on, right? It allocates this new struct proc in p-table, allocates a new PID, sets up the kernel stack, does all the process creation. So we will begin by understanding this allocproc function, and then we are going to look at the code for init and fork and so on. Okay, so here is the code for allocproc, right? What does it do? I will only explain sort of the relevant parts. So it will look over the p-table and find an unused entry and mark it for use. It will first mark it as an embryo. Okay, so embryo is a state to indicate that the process is being created so that nobody else uses this p-table entry again. So you mark it as embryo. You assign a new PID to it. You know, next PID is like a global variable, and whenever a new process is created, it is incremented and assigned. Then what you do is, for this new process, you allocate a new kernel stack. Okay, new memory. So the scalloc is a call to allocate new memory for the kernel stack of a process, right? So now you have some new memory allocated, and this variable k stack is pointing to this new piece of memory, which is the kernel stack of this process. Now note that you use the stack from bottom to top. The stack grows in this direction, right? So therefore, what we have to do is, for this kernel stack, we have to start filling it up from the bottom. So allocproc starts filling up the kernel stack. So you first go to the bottom of the stack. Here, you go to the bottom of the stack. Your stack pointer starts here. You go to the bottom of the stack, and then what do? You first leave space for a trap frame. You're not actually writing the trap frame, but you leave some space for the trap frame here first. And after the trap frame, you leave space for a return address. You write the address of trap ret here. Why? I will explain all of this. Just bear with me for a little bit. And then on top of this, you once again move your stack pointer up and you push a context structure. And in this context structure, the EIP is set to forkret, to this function forkret. Okay, so you have allocated a new kernel stack and you leave space for a trap frame on the kernel stack. And on top of the kernel stack, you put the address of trap ret. And on top of that, you push a context structure where the EIP of the context structure is pointing to forkret. Now, why did we do all of this? Why did allocproc do all of this? All of this is done. Now you take the struct proc and you set its state to runnable. And now the CPU scheduler is going to find this process and it will run it. Now, when the CPU scheduler finds this process and runs it, what happens? We have seen this in a previous lecture. It will look at the context structure. It will pop the context from the context structure. So this new process, it will go to this EIP first. It will begin execution in forkret. It will run this forkret function. And then after that, after you return from a function, what do you do next? You will once again pop whatever is there on the stack. This is the return address. You will, after returning from forkret, you will go to trapret. And what does trapret do? We've seen trapret in the past. It pops the trap frame and returns back to user space, right? So what has allocproc done here? It has created a handcrafted kernel stack. It created a kernel stack. It didn't start a new process with a blank slate. It didn't start it with an empty kernel stack. Instead, it started it off with a kernel stack with all the state in it, so that to the scheduler, this looks like any other process. It has a context structure, it has a trap frame, its kernel stack checks out, it looks good. So the scheduler can directly switch to this process and run it like any other process, right? So the main job of this allocproc is to create this kernel stack so that the process is ready to run, is ready to be context switched in by the scheduler. So this new process first starts in forkret. When forkret returns, you pop the return address from the stack again, you go to trapret, then you pop the trap frame, and this new process starts to run. Okay, that is the allocproc. Now let us look at the init process creation, right? So this is the function that is called right after boot up to create the init process. What does this do? It first, of course, allocates a new struct proc. It calls allocproc, which has allocated a new struct proc and set up the kernel stack, right? And now this allocproc, note that it has set the EIP in the context structure, but it has not done anything to the trap frame. Now here you copy a new trap frame in the space that is there, right? So now your kernel stack has a context structure. It has the return address of trapret. All of this have been done by allocproc. And then there is a trap frame here. So now you zero out this trap frame and you fill in various values into it. The important thing is you fill in an EIP of 0 and you copy some code. This is the name of the process. This is not the code, I'm sorry. You copy, here is where you copy the init code into this process, into the memory image of this process, and you set the EIP equal to 0, and you set the name of the process to be init code, and you set the state of this process to be runnable, right? So you first call allocproc, you create a new process, and you fill in the trap frame such that it starts execution at instruction number 0 of the init code, which you have copied into the memory image of the process. Now, when init code runs, it simply performs exec system call to actually run the init program, right? So this is the actual code that the init program will run. It will open multiple files for the standard input, standard output, standard error, right? So this is the part where the file descriptors are set up. And then it calls fork, and the child will exec the shell, and the parent will simply call wait. Okay, so init simply spawns the shell, spawns a child, execs the shell in it, and waits for either the shell or any of the other children to die. And note that it will reap all its orphan descendants, right? Whether it is the shell or any other orphans will be reaped. That is the code of the init process, right? So you initially did allocproc, you set up the trap frame such that execution begins here in user mode for the init process. Now let us look at the fork system call, right? So the init process is created. After that, every subsequent process, including the shell and everything, is forked from the init process. So how does the fork system call work? It also calls allocproc to allocate a new struct proc entry, and the kernel stack of the new process is set up with the context structure and everything that we've seen. Now, the only thing remaining is to set the trap frame. So here we've seen this, all the process state is copied, memory and file descriptors and everything. We'll come to that later. The important thing is that trap frame is copied from the parent. You copy the trap frame of the parent, with the result that when the child returns from trap, it returns to the exact same line of code as the parent, because the EIP, the registers, everything is copied. So the child returns from a fork just the same way as the parent returns from fork. So you would have seen this in previous lectures when we looked at the usage of fork. Now you're understanding why that usage is actually happening. Why does fork behave the way it does? Note that the parent and the child have different memory images, right? They're not executing the exact same instruction in memory. There is a copy of the memory image from the parent to the child. Just that the EIP value, the virtual address that they return to, is the same. Okay, both the parent and the child start execution at the same point in their corresponding memory images. They are not running on the same piece of memory. They're running on different pieces of memory, but the line of code where they resume execution is the same. Okay. The only thing that you change, the trap frame is an exact copy. The only thing is you change the value of the EAX register. This EAX register has the return value. You change this to 0 so that the child returns from fork with a 0 return value, whereas the parent returns with the PID of the child as the return value. And coming back, you have copied the state, you've copied the memory. So this is where a duplicate of the memory image is created. And you copy the trap frame, you set the EAX return value in the child to 0, and you set the child state to runnable. And of course, the parent returns from trap. Now, when the scheduler goes around to finding new processes in its for loop, tries to find the next process to run, it will find the child at some point, and then the child will run according to the configuration we've done here. Right, so this is a summary of new process creation in XV6. New processes are created by allocating a struct proc entry to it in the P table, marking it as runnable, so that whenever the scheduler comes around to running it, to finding a new process to run, this new process will be found. And the alloc proc function also sets up the kernel stack. Right, the neat hack is that the kernel stack of the new process is set up in such a way that it looks like a process that has been context switched out in the past. It has a context structure and everything, so that as far as the scheduler is concerned, it doesn't have to do anything different. It will context switch it in like any other process. So this ends our discussion of how new processes are created in XV6, and also the past 6 lectures have covered the process management part of XV6.